Over to you. Thank you, President Phillip. It's my great pleasure today to chair our meeting and to welcome shortly to the dais here Anna Shultze. With that for the last couple of years, as you know, as part of the snake project. A little bit about Anna. Her role at CSL, she's responsible for development and management of CSL's Australian public policy and government engagement. She joined CSL in 2015 after more than 20 years experience in various public affairs and public policy roles in government and the corporate sector. Anna's worked as a minister advisor to cabinet ministers both at state and federal level. She spent nearly 10 years with ExxonMobil, initially in Dallas, Texas, and then subsequently in Papua. Anna's qualifications include a degree in public policy and management, a grad dip in population studies, and her bachelor degree in geography and development studies. And one last note about Anna or her family connection. Her father, her late father, Howard, was a member of Adelaide Rotary Club for 52 years and a Paul Harris Fellow. And Anna says in that time, he barely missed a meeting and he did make-ups as he travelled the world for work. So those days of anyone barely missing a meeting are long gone, but obviously a very proud record and a very strong connection that you have with Rotary. So we welcome you today. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you, Tony. And yes, if my father was still with us, he would definitely have been here today doing a makeup. He was very interested in this project. Actually, I would say he was a patent attorney and he was intrigued with solving some of the problems from a technological point of view that I'll talk to in a minute. But thank you for having me and talking about this really interesting and life-saving project. And thank you for the support that Rotary has provided to this project over the last year or so. I've really got what is a bit of a photo display here just to talk to you about what we're doing up there. So hopefully it will work. Oh, okay, it's slow. So firstly, just to give you a little bit of context on Papua New Guinea as a nation, it has about 11 million people, but some estimates are that it's more like 17 million people. So that goes to show some of the challenges in terms of data collection and population management and counting in this country. It's one indicator. There are 780 separate distinct languages in Papua New Guinea and very separate cultural groups. One of the things that's always amused me about the 780 languages is that up in the highlands, away in the highlands, there's an American missionary group who have taken it upon themselves to translate the Bible into every one of those 780 languages. So there's about 300 people up there working away on and it's a bit of folklore in Port Moresby. Also a little bit of history. Australia and PNG were once part of the same continent. So, and not that long ago, only about 11,000 years ago, the sea levels were much lower than they are now. And Australia and PNG were part of the Sahul continent, as you can see on the slide. And consequently, we share a lot of the same fauna. So you can see the cassowary there, we share them. In PNG, their kangaroos live in trees, they're tree kangaroos. And we also share the same snakes, which is either good or bad, depending on the way that you look at it. But at the moment, it's good for PNG because it means that Australian anti-venom works on PNG snakes, and that is not necessarily the case. This is the PNG Snakebite Project, and it's not all about anti-venom, but a lot of it is about anti-venom. So just a minute or so in relation to anti-venom. CSL, Australian company, we are the only manufacturer in the world of Australian anti-venom, and we're the last major pharmaceutical company of any type making any anti-venom at all. And that is because it's a non-commercial product. For Australian anti-venom, there's one purchaser, that's the Australian government, and it's very, very low volume. So we make in total about 7,000 vials a year. About 10% of that now goes to P&G. It is a grandfathered, highly manual manufacturing process. What that means is that it's very expensive to make. And it's also species specific. So the reason that Big Pharma doesn't make anti-venom, there's two reasons that Big Pharma doesn't make anti-venom and sell it. Firstly, the countries most afflicted by snakebite are developing countries, and they don't have enough, they don't have the money to pay for anti-venom. And then also because you have to make anti-venom from the venom of the snake that you're trying to treat. So you have to milk the snake or the spider or the marine animal for their venom. Then you have to test the potency of that venom. And then the way we make land snake anti-venom is we inject a small amount of that venom for at least a period of 6 months into a horse. And then at the end of the 6-month period, take plasma donation from the horse, like a human would make a plasma donation. The horse makes a plasma donation. They're very valuable horses, right? We sort of, and then really we purify the antibodies that the horse has developed against that snake anti-venom, against snake venom, and that is your anti-venom. Australian anti-venoms were developed. The first one for the tiger snake was in 1930, and the last one was for the Sydney funnel web spider, which was in 1980. P&G has one of the highest rates of snakebite in the world. Let's say 1,000 deaths annually, but that's a rough estimate, about the same as the population size. It could be anything, but we know it's a lot. The photo that I've got up there is just to show you. These are 600 school children, and I'll talk to you about what we're doing there. But you can see that. Actually, you probably can't see, but most of these children are barefoot, and they've kind of got a cleared lawn, but outside of that, it's really thick bush, thick grass, wet, moist. It's perfect snake conditions. And in fact, when you're up in PNG and you're in Port Moresby, everyone has a story about snakebite, and a lot of them are kids getting bitten at school, which is, just kind of, we can't believe it, but it's true. One of the reasons that snakebite is so is such a invidious and such a challenge is that it disproportionately impacts the providers in the community. So these are men of, economic productive age who are gardeners, largely subsistence population or cash crops. And it's the men between 18 and say 55 who often are supporting young children and old children by gardening in a subsistence economy. And it's those people that are hit by snakebite. And when one of them dies or becomes disabled, loses a leg, loses the arm, depending on where they were bitten, there are a number of dependents who are also suddenly impoverished by losing their provider. So why is it worse than, say, cancer or something like that afflicts a whole community? It's because of the specific disproportionate impact on those economic providers. So this, just to tell you where the project, the genesis of the project, so pre-2018, which is when the project started, PNG had one of the highest snakebite rates in the world. It's the same snakes. It's the front-fanged elapids that we have here in Australia. And every year, PNG government would look to purchase anti-venom from CSL. It was by far the highest cost medicine in Papua New Guinea. They always purchased far less than what they needed, and then they never paid for it anyway. And difficult for CSL. We kept sending it. Obviously, we have a moral sort of obligation. We're not going to not send this life-saving product to this country. But the challenge was that it would end up in central stores and then it would immediately go missing as well. And it was turning up on the black market, on the streets of Port Moresby for $4,000 or $5,000 Australian dollars. So, A, there was not enough in the country. B, government couldn't pay for it. C, even when it got there, it was disappearing and it wasn't getting to the people that needed it anyway. And we actually, we've been kind of prepared to donate it for a long time, but we didn't have a mechanism. We don't have people on the ground in PNG. We didn't have a mechanism to be able to get it to PNG and then make sure that in country it was accepted and then stewarded to the people that actually needed it. That in-country link was missing and was a challenge. And there was a sort of that little brown thing that you can't read, but this was just an interesting side point, is that there was a chap in PNG and he was getting money from Australian research with the vision that PNG was going to be making its own anti-venom, and that was always a really huge ask to be making human biologics, particularly highly manual ones like this that have a lot to do with animal husbandry. And it did delay us until that sort of was knocked on the head, and the budget, particularly when they were saying, we're going to spend all this money, we're going to make our own. And we're like, we're just going to give it to you. We're going to give it to you for free. So this is the first time that I went up to PNG after I'd lived there, obviously, but I started to work for CSL. I came back. This is the first time up there to have a look what was happening with anti-venom. And there you can see this is Central Stores, the household refrigerator in the locked cage. The refrigerator is really bad for a cold chain product, plus power goes off all the time. And so that is substandard. You're not sure it's going to work. And then even worse than that, when they had to send it somewhere, they were sort of putting it in a cardboard box and wrapping it up in newspaper and sending it, which is not cold chain. And the whole effect of all of this is, that's a newspaper clipping from 2017, that the PNG Department of Health and POM General Hospital said, look, this is just ridiculous. We're just going to charge you the whole cost. It's going to be 15,000 kina, which is 8,000 Australian dollars. If you want any anti-venom from us. And again, this is a population who are subsistence farmers generally. They don't have $100, let alone $8,000. So it was completely out of control. And Port Moresby General Hospital is treating at least one, if not two, snake bite victims every single day. But in Australia, maybe one a month if you're lucky, not even close. But this is every single day. Desperate people would be arriving. So this is where we started. And I should say, we were already like, we'll give it to you. We just kind of need to work out what's going to happen in country. So we began trying to build this partnership. What can this look like? How can we all sort of hold hands? The Papua New Guinea Department of Health, Port Moresby General Hospital, and the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs, the AusAid program, who are obviously big in PNG. And a big part of that was educating the policy makers, and both PNG Department of Health and the Australian government. And I would say we did go to Canberra and say, look, can we help us? We want to give this stuff away. And Canberra had zero interest. It's too small. We're not interested. But when we actually went to the High Commission in Port Moresby, they were like, yes, please, all our kids are getting, so it's totally different, the people on the ground in DFAT to Canberra. So then that led to a period of probably 18 months of almost a sort of a crazy time to work out what a model might look like. And you don't need to read the detail on this to It looks complex, but basically we donate the product to the Port Moresby Department of Health. The Port Moresby Department of Health says, Australian government, can you please help us distribute it? And then the Australian government says, sure, we're going to engage a third party to distribute it. And I just include that little photo there. That was after a couple of days of madly running around Port Moresby trying to get the minister's signature on the deed, and we finally got it. So we were celebrating with a SP lager there in the 1970s styrofoam, which is the lingua franca sort of drink of Port Moresby, and we were very happy. So we launched it in April 2018. The idea is that CSL basically donates the product, and then an in-country provider, who at that time was a little organisation run by the University of Melbourne, would take the product, would distribute the product to healthcare centres, would do training for all of the healthcare workers in terms of first aid training for snakebite victims, management of the anti-venom. There's a sophisticated, unsophisticated anti-theft sort of mechanism using UV ink and whatever. We can trace a product that ends up on the black market exactly to the healthcare clinic. And that was working well. We certainly got it up and running. And then I think at the beginning of last year, the University of Melbourne said, hang on, why are we running a service delivery program in Papua New Guinea? It's just supposed to be a research program. And they decided we're out. And we were like, oh no. But we turned to St. John's Ambulance, who had set up in Papua New Guinea a couple of years earlier. And through a tender process by AusAid, St. John's were enlisted as the new in-country provider for the project. And that is the launch actually just over a year ago, June 2024. And they've been absolutely fantastic. That is basically the team there. Oh no, you can't see it yet. But basically that's that's the St. John's team in Port Moresby. And what St. John's coming on board, they've just got much bigger organisation and are able to support us more. So we're doing significantly more health worker training at a number of more locations. So this is a classic scene of health worker training. These guys are all the health workers who are all over the place, often no roads, very, very difficult to get to, 3-day walk, helicopter that we've sort of borrowed from one of the resource companies, and then a boat and then a canoe to get both the anti-venom and the training to the people. This guy that's talking, that's Andrew Maru. He is a nurse trainer. So he is our snakebite nurse. He's been with the project from the beginning, and he does the distribution and the health worker training. The other thing that St. John's has bought is that the Australian government has funded in Port Moresby for St. John's a 000 emergency ambulance call line, and that's their really schmicko new facility. And joining the project with St. John's means that Andrew Maru, the nurse, is now on call 24 hours a day for anyone around the country that has a mobile phone, and mobile phones are pretty well distributed now, can ring up and say, I've got someone, even in terms of first aid, what do we do? And that's been great. The other thing that we were really excited to get this year is a new ambulance. The ambulance that we had done about 300,000 kilometres on PNG roads, which is it's like dog years, 700 kilometres on an Australian road. And again, that's Andrew's very proud of that new ambulance. And we're getting more. We've probably doubled the reach of the program in terms of the clinics. We're now supplying 79 clinics, which is about 13 of the 22 provinces, and in particular, it's where the snakes are the most aggressive, and that is the team with the healthcare worker. They have to show us where the anti-venom is going to be stored. This is a fridge. One of the biggest challenges with storing vaccines and anti-venoms is cold chain. It needs to be in a vaccine fridge. That's been hard when there's no electricity in most of these places. That has largely been solved by UNICEF distribution of solar-powered fridges, but that program, unfortunately, looks like it's going to close with the defunding of USAID for programs in this part of the world. So that's very sad. But the clinics that have got them, and it's great. We also have a number of new distribution partners. And as I said, where there's no roads and there's no obvious transport, we sort of beg, borrow and steal any distribution vehicles and mechanisms that we can. We've got ships, we've got helicopters, we've got the resources companies offering access, we've got the Kokoda Track Foundation on board. And of course, and really significantly, the Rotary Club of Melbourne has made a massive difference in terms of impact to the program. Most significantly, what Rotary Club of Melbourne support has done is to introduce or allow us to introduce community education. So to go to both the schools and the villages to talk about snakebite first aid or prevention, but then particularly first aid. There is a lot of black magic cultural belief. There's a black stone that, you put a black stone on and they'll pull the venom out, and people are dying with the black stone, and very tight tourniquets where someone will arrive at support and lose their arm or leg anyway because the tourniquet was too tight. Cutting the bite and sucking it out, and then you both kind of got envenomation. So the community education is really important. They funded the card there in Tokpisin and Motu, donating the pressure bandages, which is what you're actually supposed to do with a snake bite. The temperature logged eskies for cold chain. You saw the cardboard box with the newspaper. This means that the product will get to where it needs to go in perfect condition. And I think the Zoll ventilator was the first foray, which is now in the snakebite ambulance. One of the envenomation of this sort of neurotoxicity is that your diaphragm seizes up and you need to be artificially ventilated. And before they got the Zoll ventilator, that was often 5 hours in the back of a bumpy ambulance with someone manually bagging. This was when I was up there a few weeks ago, showing you one of our community snakebite education funded by Rotary Melbourne. We thought we were going to this primary school to talk to one class. We got there and all 600 of them were out there waiting and really engaged, really focused and listening, because it is a daily challenge. Everyone in PNG knows someone who has been bitten, died, or been disabled by snakebite. And that is just, as all developing countries are, very high population of young people in PNG. And so being able to get out with the message of prevention and first aid is really important. And this is just a photo again. This is the Rotary-funded community education in terms of this is what you should be doing. You should be taking your pressure bandage and immobilizing it, and, practical demonstrations. These are the clinics that we are now supplying to. And like I say, it looks, hey, it's a map, but some of these, particularly the ones in the middle there in the highlands, it's pretty extraordinary for that team on the ground to be getting out. Security is a challenge, transport is a challenge, and they're getting to all of those places. Okay. I'll finish on just saying, you know, what is the future for this project and developing countries all over the world and these sort of challenges. These are blood deliveries being made by drone in Rwanda. And this is a company called Zipline. Oh, you can't see it. You'll see it in a sec. This company called Zipline, which is in PNG and I think is really interesting. And then I've got a LinkedIn and a website here. So I really encourage you to join the conversation, like them and follow them on LinkedIn and you'll see where they're going. And it's, it's really lagging behind me, but you can look at the pictures as I go through. So, sorry, that's the last slide.
Thank you very much, Anna. Couple of quick questions, if anyone's got a quick question.
How many different types of anti-venom?
So there's two main land snakes. So the taipan and the small-eyed snake, and then there's a little bit of sea snake and a little bit of stonefish, and then we have a polyvalent, which is multiple snake species in the one anti-venom. But that's we try and encourage them. Main one is the taipan. Yeah, that's the most significant.
Yeah. What's going to happen to America now?
Who knows? Who knows?
So on that lighter note, I thank you again, Anna, and we always give our speakers here a fantastic gift. It's a pair 200% snake-proof socks from Phil Endersby. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you from Team PNG to Rotary Melbourne for everything you've done. It's been fantastic. And that's, I'll leave you with that photo.
And those who are interested, I think the photo's also in those packs on the tables, if you wish. So thank you all, visitors and guests, for attending today. Congratulations on your win, Quinn. Well done. And also thanks to Bernie for chairing today, and a terrific reflection from Cheryl yet again. So thank you again, Cheryl. Anyone that's want to help, and I guess we'll all be wanting to help in some way, who wants to stay behind and help pack up? There are no snakes around here, so you're safe. And a reminder, next week is our monthly evening meeting. It'll be held at the Imperial Hotel, Burke Street. And we have a special presentation on podcasting for business. And our guest speaker will be John Downs, a successful podcaster launching at number 6 on Apple Podcasts. And I don't even know what that means, but at a very own Karen Kim. So thanks again for coming along.